you doing?
Very good. All right, where are you?
So you got a spring showcase on Saturday. Can you tell us about the format for that?
It'll be like a practice. A lot of situation work, some individual work, special teams. So trying to touch on everything that we can get on film for a game with referees. So
Will it be just kind of mixing and matching of players? There won't be like one team versus another, even in
it'll be offense versus defense.
Okay.
So that's how we take it up.
Yeah. So similar to some of the things you've done in the past.
Yeah, kind of what you'll see out here today.
And have you ever had it before the end of spring before?
I have. Just the way it fits. I mean, it's one opportunity out of year 15, so they asked us to do it on the 23rd, so we still got 3 more training sessions.
SC over across town is going to be having their spring game as well. They're going to be on ESPN. You had College Game Day. You got to know what the exposure of that was worth. Is there kind of an arms race, poor choice of words here, but an exposure race in college football where things like that are important, especially with NIL emerging and buzz for recruits and fans and things like that, where getting the exposure of an ESPN can be a big boost in a situation like that?
Yeah, I don't think spring games are that important in terms of what people are watching. I mean, you'd have to look at the numbers from a demographic standpoint. I couldn't tell you what spring game viewership is like, so I couldn't really give you an answer on that one.
But just more broadly speaking, exposure of
again, it's exposure is who watches it. So I don't know how many people are watching spring games. So I couldn't tell you yay or nay on that.
Yeah, Justin Martin been out here for a couple of weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen him develop when he first arrived to now how he's like with the rest of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, Justin's done a really nice job. Came in January. He's a real student of the game, so he's around the building a ton. Has worked really, really hard at just learning a new offense. He's obviously done some similar things in high school. They threw the heck out of the ball where he was, but terminology and things like that are different. So that part of it is really important for him to just kind of get our terminology down, and he's worked really hard at that. And I've seen him grow from training session 1 to where we are now, which is really what we talked to him about. His goal is that can he be better in training session 9 than he is in 1. That means there's a logical progression in what he's doing, but he's done a really, really good job, and I think he's got a bright future. We're excited about Justin. He's gained probably about 5-6 pounds since he got here. He's a little bit thicker, but he's got a great frame, big, tall, long, rangy, really athletic, runs well for a big kid. So we're excited about Justin.
And you got Matt Sargent, we've seen out here walk on. He used to be a team manager. What is that like? That kind of journey from that kind of role. What does that say about the program you have?
I think that's a good question for Matt. Matt just said he wanted to try out and see if that's an opportunity for him. Obviously, the springtime is a time for that to happen, for kids to come in and try out. We're limited in the number of kids we can bring to camp in the fall, so that roster has to be set. But in the spring, there's not a set number. So, Matt asked if he could have an opportunity. We had seen him, he had been a manager, and he'd seen him throw the ball around a little bit. He's got a little bit of a live arm, so it was an opportunity for him to come out in the spring and show what he could do.
What have you seen out of that tight end group this spring, especially with Mike Martinez out, but still seems like they're performing?
Yeah, Mike's
well.
back. Mike's been doing a lot of things recently, but that whole group as a whole, it's a big, tall, long. Ezekiel Hudson, Preebs, the addition of Carson Ryan coming in as an early enrollee out of high school. We feel like we have some depth at that position. Obviously you have to replace Greg, who was really, really productive. Probably our second most productive guy behind Kyle in the passing game. So trying to find out who that is, but I think we got multiple guys to choose from. They've practiced really, really well at a really high level. And it's a deep group, probably the deepest group we have, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So been really happy with all those guys over there and what they've been doing.
Anecdotally, it seems like walk-ons tend to, show up a little bit more there, and it seems like you've got some talented ones again this year. Is there something about that position group that lends itself more to guys maybe flying a little bit under the radar at high school?
I think in some situations, like in Dulcich's situation at Huds, they were receivers in high school, and they've grown into their bodies. So, Dulcich was 200, 205 pounds as a high school senior. Played quarterback, played receiver, was a really athletic kid. But we knew size-wise that he would get to, to be 240 plus, which is what he ended up being. And the same thing with Hud. Hud was a taller, skinnier. high school receiver, but knew he had the ability to gain some weight. So I think sometimes you just get some kids at that position that they grow a little bit later, they mature a little bit later. So they may have played one position at the high school level, but they play another position. Mike Church is another kid. He was a quarterback in high school. So I think sometimes you get kids that move to that position that's not the position that they played at the high school level. So that's kind of where, maybe that's why that position is a little bit different than I think some of the other ones from a walk-on standpoint. But we have had success with some walk-ons at tight end. So, and especially Greg, obviously going to get an opportunity to get drafted here in 2 weeks. So that also those other guys can see what he did, and that's something for them to shoot for. So.
With the spring showcase, what are you kind of looking forward to showing the public?
Again, the spring showcase for us is just another practice opportunity for us to get better. There's so much situational work that will get done on that day, but similar to what will get done today. Today's a big third down emphasis for us. So, there's an emphasis throughout each day that we're trying to get accomplished and get on film and get our guys to understand whether it's 2-minute situation, a 4-minute situation, red zone work, coming out work, special teams work. But you can get a little bit more specific in terms of what you're trying to get accomplished. Sometimes you can, if you just scrimmage and the ball doesn't get to the red zone, or you're not getting red zone work. So we'll specifically move the ball situationally to different spots in the field, and then try to get into some different situations, whether it be third down. All the things in football that are really the difference in winning and losing that we've been emphasizing through the whole spring. So it's just an opportunity for us to do that.
After the showcase, I think there's like an autograph session, some giveaways. Is that a good opportunity to connect with the fans and kind of build some excitement?
Yeah, it is, especially coming off of COVID. We haven't had fans, in 2 years. So I think that's an opportunity. There's a little bit of a get back to a sense of normalcy, because of what everybody's been through. So I think that's an important thing for our players to get an opportunity to reach back out to our fan base and get a chance to spend some time with us.
Our legendary prep writer, Eric Sonheimer, wanted me to ask you a question about high schools. Lots of high school football players are participating in 7-on-7 competitions this spring instead of running track. Do you have a preference or belief on whether track could help a player's development or if they should stick to football year-round?
I think it's whatever their individual skill set is, but there's been some tremendous. I would encourage all athletes to play as many sports as they can, whether it's track, basketball, baseball. John Bond's playing both right now for us. He's playing on the baseball team right now. So multi-sport athletes. I think when you look at the draft, it's a big thing. People talk about how many of those guys that are getting drafted, that are high draft picks, are multi-sport athletes. So I think that's an important thing. I think the good ones, when you watch them, they actually can run track and do 7-on-7 at the same time. So I think the more they can do, the better. So if it's 7-on-7 track, baseball, if they can put it on their plate. Jackie Robinson did it. He played for us, so things worked out pretty good for him. So I would recommend kids play as many sports as they can.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.